Good morning, Vitam. Sir, the way we have planned it, a small introduction from my side. Thereafter, Rakesh Saab and Bhanja Saab would take around 10 minutes each to talk about their part, their understanding on data. Thereafter, it will be the showstopper, where you can take your own time regarding your delivery on your subject, sir.
Yeah, I'm presenting about 30 slides, taking half an hour, maybe 45 minutes.
That would be fine, sir.
So just let me know once Rakesh Shah sir joined Shweta, if you don't know about it.
But how do I find out?
From the panelist, I can't see that. Okay, let me check. Okay, good morning everyone. Just welcome you all in today's discussion. It's ERP Virtual Townhall Season-6. Now, just to let you know, this time we are live in Facebook and YouTube channel as well. So, if someone of your colleagues who want to join from there, you can just let them know that we are present and live at the point of time. We are going live through Facebook and YouTube. Just to give you a quick glimpse, those who have joined till now, I can see around 87 people joined. Out of that, I'm not sure how many of you are from which subsidiaries, but just to give a glimpse. So we have conducted this feedback session for organization change management, like change readiness assessment. In this assessment, as we have seen till now, 55% of the entire response coming from WCL. So a tremendous job. So that's a bow from all of us. It's a great initiative from WCL. And if you look around the employee density, that is what you can see in the right hand side. So majorly ACCL is the highest density with up to number of users present. Then WCL, then CCL. All are more on the same lines, 14, 13%, 12%, 12%, like that. With respect to CIL, it's around 3%. So obviously, that's how it goes. So in that respect, I will say a tremendous job from WCL at this point of time. Then comes the phase 2 location SCCL with 12%. But I will again, CL, it's a chance for you. Please go ahead, share all your colleagues that we are running this survey. So how to get it? It is pretty easy, I will say. You can directly go to Poll India site and there you will find this option in the breadcrumb. There you can find this survey. So we all heartily welcome gentlemen in our Wall of Fame. So they are part of Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, Season 4, Season 5, and now we are here, Season 6, and we have our beloved Thomas sir with us. All right. We have virtual as well, where we have Kalash and Satyanarayan sir. Yeah. So welcome you all for today's session. So today it is ERP Virtual Townhall Season-6. As we all know, and we always try to adhere to being on mute. So we are using the new technique of Webex event. So once it is given a chance to you all at the end of the session, when you are going like with all this, you will be put into unmute state. At that point of time, once someone is speaking, please keep your microphone mute. That is very important. You take all the notes from the session. Whatever queries you are having, please take a note of that. And in the end of the session, when we are going to have this Q&A session, we have dedicated time for that. You share your thoughts, you unmute your system and say. I will say, don't at this point of, there are a lot of distraction around with respect to the current situation in India, if we talk about, or our platforms like social media platforms. So try to keep away from that. Don't have side conversations even when you are speaking. Don't try to have side conversations. Focus on the topic what we are discussing today. And at the end, don't interrupt. So that is what is very important. Respect the other person's time and the patience. So in today's agenda, we are having start with a welcome note from Shubhajit sir. Then we're going to have a small crisp view on data cleaning part from Bhanja sir and Rakesh Shah sir. So Bhanja sir and Rakesh Shah sir, if you already joined, please let me know so that I can put you into the panelist. So then we'll be having Thomas sir to share his views, share his experience. Then we will have this question answer session, dedicated time for that. And at the end, we'll having the vote of thanks from Martin Singh sir. So, okay, I can see Rakesh sir joined. Let me quickly put him to the panelist. Shubhajit sir, will you start with the welcome note, please?
I have what is the attendance right now, and have Bhanja Sahab and Rakesh Sahab joined?
Rakesh sir joined. I'm trying to put him into analyst. So I feel there is some glitches from my end. Shonendu, you there? If you can quickly check Rakesh Shah sir, Bhanja sir, will you please add them to the panel, please? So is that I will make that arrangement done. You please continue. Both of them go join.
Okay. Then we'll start. Namaskar. Good morning to all of you. आप सबका इस टाउन हॉल नंबर 6 में हार्दिक स्वागत है. As we all know, data is king. और इस राजा का राज या reign, it is just beginning. Access and reliance on endless stream of data is transforming the way we do business. और अब ERP, the wanted single source of truth, which will house in its database the most critical data from every facet of our business. वर्तमान में यही डेटा गैदर करने में अफरा तफरी मची हुई है. जो डेटा गैदर किया गया है, जो डेटा संग्रह किया गया है, उसे साफ करना तथा कंपाइल कर विभिन्न डेटा पॉइंट से हर रोज कोल इंडिया या सब्सिडरी हेडक्वार्टर्स में भेजा जा रहा है. अगर आप ये काम नहीं कर रहे हैं तो कृपया इसमें हमारी मदद करिए. It is said that only strict data governance can help CIL or the business to get an accurate view of their business and prevent the risk of relying on duplicate, inconsistent, or inaccurate data. Is ERP only as good as the data that is maintained in the system? Today, some of our doubts or most of our doubts regarding data will be answered. I'll quote a shlok from the Upanishad. Ekam sat vipraha bahuda vadanti. Truth is one. The wise describe it in various ways. Today we are going to learn more about data, not from one, but from three wise men. We start with Shri Rakesh sir, who is the project leader of WCL, followed by Shri Bonjo, who is the project leader of MCL, and lastly, the showstopper will be Shri Thomas Joseph, our ex-general manager. Nelson Mandela said, the more informed you are, the less arrogant and aggressive you are. This statement of Nelson Mandela fits perfectly on all the three speakers of today. It's my proud privilege to welcome Shri Rakesh sir for his thoughts on data. Rakesh sir, please.
Thank you, Subhajit. And good morning to all the attendees. Data is the most critical asset of any business organization. And clean data is the cornerstone, the foundation of ERP. The superstructure is dependent upon the foundation, so clean data is all the more important. सशक्त और दीर्घकालिक ERP इम्प्लीमेंटेशन की इमारत क्लीन डाटा की बुनियाद पर ही निर्भर करती है. As you all are aware of the fact that for successful implementation of ERP, it is mandatory to have the following three prerequisites. We should have the single source of truth, that is single database. Data entry should be done at the point of data generation. And thirdly, once the data entered should not be entered again. That is, redundancy should be avoided as far as possible. In the pursuit of single source of truth, we have to move from discrete database to unified database, from silo to single instance, and in the turn, we have to become global from the local perspective. It poses a huge challenge for all of us, all of the ERP warriors, and it has been handled and overcome largely by the ERP team, system integrator of TechM, ERP team of CIL, and all the subsidiaries, subject matter experts, module owner, and various stakeholders. In WCL perspective, I want to put the case study of customer data. We can have our evolution of computer data, we can put in three historical slices, pre-2003 to 2003 to 2016, and from 2016 onwards. Pre-2003, we were completely in the silo mode. Database were discrete at the area level, and the results were compiled at subsidiary for anything. After 2003, we got a lease line from BSNL, and we were able to consolidate data at our end at headquarters. And post 2016, we adopted Colnet. In the Colnet also, initially the server was same, but data was in the slice mode. Though the physical destination of the data was same, but it was in the compartmental mode. Structure was same, but customer master if we consider our 10 areas, we had more than 64,000 data records. Some of the areas had more than 10,000 data. So we tried to deduplicate the data by employing a single customer master. Deduplication at central level reduced our data by a huge number, by 66%. It came down to 19,000 odd numbers. And deduplication helped a lot because even when COVID was started and we were having a separate data, then any result, any report which was being asked, customer master, since it was created at the area level, if name was different, result set would have been for the same party code, 2 result set would have obtained. So consolidation was the need of the hour, it was done. So deduplication resulted into our 19,000 records. Further, when ERP was in the offing and master data governance model required data of 4 core modules consisting of customer, vendor, item master, employee and asset. We worked, system department worked mainly on this. So in case of customer, we got better result by exclusion of the data at WCL level through historical slicing. So we took data after 2007 and we were able to do it. The numbers reduced further to 3,678, which is the information being shown in the Coal India for WCL data. This also contains duplication in terms of, it is unique in terms of WCL customer code, but deduplication has been done at the Coal India level and final data has come to 2058. So the result of data cleaning can be astonishing from 64,000 to 2058. So for all the subsidiaries who are in the second phase, they have to employ similar approach. And as far as item master is concerned, it is also a humongous task. When the data were consolidated over Coal India, more than 8 lakh data came. But our source of data, the primary key was item code, for which there were multiple records for the same item, because data was structured in the basis that based on like model we were having the items. So when deduplication was done based on part number, of course there are many issues with the part number. It reduced to 2.5 lakh at Coal India, and further when part number deduplication are done, then it reduced to 1.5 lakh, and item code, based on item code, it is 2.5 lakh. So you can see the exercise from 8 lakh to 1.5 lakh. But still the challenge is very great, because this 1.5 lakh data plus 1 lakh additional data that is in the batch mode is to be put across subsidiary over different enterprises. So it will be a huge challenge. Data are classified into basically 4 classes: governed data, non-governed data, transaction data, and historical data. So governed data task has been largely achieved by CIL. It is in work in progress. Asset data requires some cleaning, some more updation. Non-governed data, as far as PP module is concerned, production module, plant and maintenance module, PS module, those data are being provided in the Excel sheet, and non-governed data is also being consolidated over Coal India. So basic data clearing process consists of ETL, extraction, transformation and loading. Extraction is basically the data that is being taken from the source. Source is subsidiary. And at CIL level, through iterative process, validation is being done, cleaning is being done. Cleaning is done both at the subsidiary level as well as CIL level. After it passes through various iteration level, then it is ready for transformation. Transformation is done based on KDS of the structure that has been placed, and when it is ready, then it can be loaded. And for 5 governed data, we have to have MDRM, and master governance data is to be there, so that data to be captured after ERP is implemented is in the unified form. It is in the deduplicated form. Clean data importance of clean data is very much. It improves the quality of the data. Unwanted data is pruned, and any decision making becomes very fast, because it is based not only on informed decision but on the quality of the data. So decision making becomes very fast and improves into the productivity of the organization. And clean data is the paramount thing for taking quick decisions. With these words, I hand over the baton to Mr. Pritam Bose. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I am taking it from Pritam, sir. Pritam will get it only after our whole program is done. Thank you so much, sir. May I now request Bhanja, sir, to share his thoughts on data with us. Bhanja, sir.
Yes.
Sir, your voice is not clear.
Is the yeah, so okay. I'll stop my video. Is it?
That would be okay, sir. That would be okay. Let us try without your video.
Now audible? Are you able to hear? Is it better?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is better.
Okay, it's clearly audible. Hello.
Audible, sir.
Yeah. Again, very good morning to all those who have joined in this town hall session. Special morning to good morning to Joseph Shah. He has led such a solid foundation for this ERP this thing. So there is success is 100% guaranteed. There is absolutely no doubt. There is a good team now taken over. They're all sincere, efficient, and very positive. So, and Mr. Rakesh Saab, he has covered this data aspects in a nicely, giving a case study in more detail. So I will cover in a little different perspective, keeping in view the audience who are diverse from different departments and all. So let me put it a lot more. It's just two ideas to trigger your thought processes in different aspects of data management and this. Why data is important? Data is the raw material for processing. This information processing, it's a raw material. If you may be having a very good vehicle, you may be having a Ferrari, but if the fuel is not good, you may not be able to drive that car. So similar situation, if the data quality is not good, it's they're just saying garbage in, garbage out. So we have to ensure data has to be of good quality so that we get our information output of good quality. So who will see now, since quality has to be ensured properly, then who is responsible for maintaining the quality and how to maintain this quality? Yes, sir. So it's a joint responsibility, but primary responsibility lies with the user of the data, who is the owner of the data. System department or IT department or ERP department, they are the facilitator, custodian of the data. But they will develop the tools, but with the help of user department. So let us just discuss how to go about. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay. So how we can ensure good quality? Basically, there are data already. There are master data and historical data. All these things have been covered by Mr. Rakesh sir. So he has also told it has to be ensured when data is entered. How will ensure that quality? It is through a process of validation. Since every data field, first of all, in a screen where data is captured, we have to, these are all basic things, mostly known to many, but I am repeating it for the sake of those who do not know. We have to just classify which are mandatory fields so that to ensure that data is complete in all respect, essential data are not left out. Then there is a validation process. We have to ensure that human efforts are susceptible to mistakes. That could be data entry mistakes. And say, for example, some data entry operator if he is entering a basic pay, by mistake 10 is added, what will happen? In a production figure, by mistake 10 is added, 10 times will be the figure. That will be catastrophic. So for every data, we can fix a range, valid range. Whenever it will enter, it will check against that range. We can also fix up business logic, depending on whether the data is in relation to other data entered is correct or not. Say, for example, dispatch date of, in case of sales, has to be more than due date. Supply date has to be more than purchase order date. Like this thing, this type of information. The user department has to furnish, tell us what type of business logic and validation logic should be put in each data element so that erroneously if something is entered by mistake, that will be captured and that will be then and there it will give alert messages. There are also in certain cases we can make patterns like the PAN number. It has a fixed pattern like 5 alphabets in capital letters, then 5 digits, 4 digits, then 1 character. We can include all these checks and balances to ensure that data is correctly entered and mistakes even if are minimized. There are certain key-throwing text boxes like reasons for, say for example, reasons for cancellation of a tender. One can write anything. Well, these sentences makes not much sense when we go for analysis. If we make analysis, because say for example, for tender, cancellation can happen if there are all the bids are rejected. It can happen due to high rate. It can happen due to low bids, no participation was there. So a lot of reasons. So if we say they will write in sentences, everyone will write in a different way, and this doesn't make sense. So a better way to put it, all this can be grouped into, we call in technical terms, list of values, which every list of sentences has to be put and user has to choose from these sentences. Say one option will be no bid, second option will be technical. This is in perspective of tender evaluation. But wherever there are sentences that have to be written and those reasons, those are to be grouped, so we can keep list of values. And in other cases also, list of values solves a lot of our issues, validation logic. So this is about how we can group validations, few examples and lessons. regarding integrity of data, of course, there will be a detailed discussion, detailed presentation by Joseph sir. I'm just saying some few points which came to my mind. Like, say, there are certain data which is what is meant by integrity. Integrity means to keep as it is, should not be changed. So for sensitive information, say for example, we are sending bank some payment advices. So we have to ensure that that is not changed by anybody. Like we are downloading the data right now, don't have any integration with the banks. We are downloading the data and we are sending it to them. So we have to how we can ensure that that is not important. We can put additional fields where we can put the MD hash. Hashing is a technology which takes care of, it's a digital fingerprint. We can give that, we transmit that digital hash as a separate field to the bank. And then we can, from bank also, we can get a reverse file. They will return after processing with giving the UTI number, and same hash result is returned back. We can compare those hash results with whatever has been sent, and whatever other fields also we can compare whether it is correct or not. So there are, if bank agrees, we can share with them regarding the hashing algorithm so that they can verify if there is anything is data is tampered. The same technology is used in case of e-tendering, because tender data is a sensitive data. So that also, this hashing technology or digital footprint, this is used to ensure that the integrity of the data is maintained. And access privileges has to be carefully managed to ensure that the proper data is handled by proper persons. Then lastly, once the data is processed, we can bring out some exception statements to see that if anywhere anything has gone wrong. Like say, one exception statement could be after salary processing. If anybody is getting more than income salary, more than say 3 lakh, 4 lakh, anything salary more than 4 lakhs, that will give an exception statement that can be examined further to ensure that everything is correctly done. So that is also a practice going on. Our earlier convention was to finance people, they used to make control figures. What are the total number of employees for which salary was prepared last month? What is the addition? What is the deletion? What should be this month's number? So this type of control figures also gives a good, it comes handy for managing the data and ensuring that it is correctly done. So these are the few things which came to my mind, very generic sort of thing, and it will trigger your thought processes. More detailed presentation is awaited. Everybody is waiting for the presentation from Joseph sir. He is the main speaker today. I am also eager to listen to him. So with this, I will conclude my this thing, and I again thanks to all, and particularly to the presenters who made arrangement for this session. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your for sharing your thoughts on data cleansing and your experience as well. It is said that when you eat the fruit, think of the person who has planted the tree. One of the few people who are involved in planting the seed of ERP in CIL is Thomas sir. Without much ado, may I ask Thomas sir to come up with his sage words on data. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Subhajit, for the wonderful introduction. I have a presentation also, which will help me cover this domain of data. I put on the presentation.
Yes, sir, you have presentation right now.
Just a minute.
Yes, sir, it's loading. Yeah.
I'll start my presentation with data as being the new currency. Let's start by in a lighter way. If you look at some of the movies, English movies which were there about 10 to 15 years back, where the hero, like say for example Tom Cruise, used to flip through the screens, come up with data, and decide that this is the place where a certain event is going to happen, and he used to chase the person at that point at the right time. At that stage, all this looked like science fiction. Today, it's no longer science fiction. It's a reality. You stand before Alexa, ask any question, Alexa or Google will be able to tell you the reply. But look at the situation. If you ask Alexa, that tell me what is the kind of procurement that has happened in MCL in particular Talcher area in a particular mine, Alexa will be confused. Alexa won't be able to say anything. And the response would be one where Alexa would be saying probably that doesn't know. So I'm only just trying to tell you that Alexa is only as good as the data that Alexa has. Likewise, if you look at any information that Coal India management or the top executive requires, it can happen only if the data exists. So it is important to understand that data is the underlying foundation. And the quality and completeness of data only can give you the required result or the required information which the chairman or the decision maker, maybe a general manager, maybe a director, is able to require and he is able to get it. Now, invariably, everything boils down to spend. How much is the money that has been spent? And are you able to, is your data able to point or help in arriving at that particular information? Whatever we do, whether it's procurement, whether it's an employee's data, everything ultimately boils down to whether the information leads to the financial part. Because businesses run and successful businesses depend on finance. You need user adoption, customer adoption, supplier adoption for this to happen. The perfect analogy to describe what an ERP system's function is for a business, some refer it to as the ERP as a digital nervous system. Others refer it to as the heart to a human body. In either case, if the ERP is the heart, then the blood that's moving through the system is managed through ERP. Likewise, if it's a digital nervous system, your nervous system or your brain takes decisions based on data that is taken in either from the eyes or the hands or anything. Essentially, it is data which is the driving force. Now, if you look at the characteristics of quality data, what is it that we need? My earlier speakers, Rakesh from WCL and Banja from NCL, gave you a nice glimpse of their association with various kinds of data, what they feel about customer data, what they feel about sales, billing, what Banja Sahib's experience with tendering, and it all leads to us to understand that the quality of data is paramount. First quality, accuracy. Is the information that has been provided or is being provided, is the information correct in every detail? Completeness. How comprehensive is the information? In this case, it is important to note that the data that we have with Coal India, it in many cases has a lot of plus points, but then there are aspects which I'll be covering through this session, which will indicate to you that data lacks comprehensiveness in many cases. Reliability is another aspect. Does the information contradict other trusted sources of data? This has been a very major problem in Coal India. Invariably, when the top man looks for data or for a particular information, the Ministry of Coal, when they ask for certain information, production department will produce one kind of figures for the number of mines. We may have a different figure from finance department. There are valid reasons. I don't say that there are no reasons for that. But then, it cannot be so any longer. We have to have all the data coming in only from a single source, and there can be only a single source of data. Relevance. Relevance is another important point. You really need this information. This is a point which I have been discussing with Tech Mahindra. If you look at any of the SAP requirements as far as data are concerned, they have 150 columns of requirements. Like say, for example, in case of item master, I told them that, see, this would apply to an industry which is mature. To a manufacturing sector, plant, maybe Mercedes-Benz, would be able to give you all the 150 pieces of information. But as far as Coal India is concerned, we deal with certain basic information, and I can expect only that as the relevant information in our context. And we need to move on with that. Maybe, yes, for a period of time, we can add on to whatever SAP demands are, and make and enrich the data. That can be a process of value addition which can take place in course of time, but not at this speed. Timeliness. How up to date is the information that you are collecting? Can it be used for real-time reporting? Now, this real-time reporting would be an aspect which ERP will be handling very professionally and very, very well, because it's a tried and tested system across the world. But let's look at timeliness of data when it comes to the data that we need to migrate from our systems into the ERP. So, at a particular stage before go live, will I need to put in the cutover data? That data has to be exactly representing the information in a timely manner as required by SAP so that the transition can happen. Now, if you're talking of data quality, one word which becomes very, very important is integrity, data integrity. Why is data integrity so important? Everybody is talking of data integrity. Data needs to be accurate. Data needs to be consistent. When I speak of consistency, what I mean is, let's say for example, in a store accounting system, you have been, let's say, taking in what is the quantity of fuel which has been disbursed by a particular pump or from a particular level. Some pump indicates that in gallons, another one decides to do it in millions of liters or in liters. So this kind of inconsistency will not. In ERP, it is very well taken care. When Manju Saab and Rakesh Saab have been talking about validation, the various forms of validation, as far as ERP is concerned, you would probably get bogged by the extent of validation that ERP does, and maybe it becomes very difficult for people to get used to that environment in the beginning. But all said and done, data has to be valid on the basis of certain consistent requirements. Data should be complete. You need, if you put in an employee's salary without a certain information coming in which is required, then the data is incomplete. In case of an item which has been issued from the store without the rate, let's say for example, you don't know what that item cost you. Data should be uniform. We need to ensure uniform information going into the system. The quantity of measure, the currency which is being used, these have to be uniform across the system. Let's take a look at what is the kind of data that Core India proposes to hand over to the ERP system. You have unstructured data, the term used by Ganja Saab, very good term, non-governed data, governed data. You have unstructured data found in the form of spreadsheets, note sheets, email, etc. A lot of our production data goes in the form of spreadsheets. Now, of course, Core India has taken steps to even collect production data through a system. Then you have transactional data. Transactional data are unit level transactions based on the transactions which are happening from the point of where the data is generated. Maybe issues, receipts, salary data, attendance data. Then you have metadata. Metadata is very important. It mentions data about data. This will be a system which would be implemented very well into the ERP. And then you have historical data. Historical data becomes very important for us because over a period of time, when wage revisions happen, you're required to find out what is the kind of arrears that a particular employee is due using historical data. Historical data is transactional data which needs to be put behind into the system. You open any bank or go to any bank site, and you will find that your data, whatever you're looking for within the bank, if you're putting in a query, it will say that the data is available only for 12 months. So today is 12th of September 2020. If I look for data in maybe ICICI, I'll be able to get data only from 13th or 14th of September till today, not beyond that. Rest of it is history. It becomes historical data and needs to go into the data warehouse. Historical data is of great significance. If you need to bring out dashboard reports, business intelligence reports, you need to point out month on month, year on year, lots of information which is based on historical data, which is of great use, particularly in analysis and also from an auditing perspective. Then you have reference data. This reference data is very, very important in the sense there were situations where I encountered this a little while back. There is the dollar rate. This is data which goes beyond the boundaries of the enterprise. Maybe the dollar rate applicable today, maybe inflation, exchange rate, and so on and so forth. So this information will also go into ERP to handle various reports where reference data is also used. And then the most important data, that is the master. The core data within the enterprise that describes objects around which business is conducted. Master data is not transactional in nature, but it describes the transactions. It is the consolidation of all the transactions. And my discussion would primarily be confined to this segment as I proceed on to the next slide. Preparing master data will be basically two important aspects: cleansing and standardizing master data. One of the typical cleansing functions will be involving standardizing data formats, replacing missing values, standardizing values, and mapping attributes correctly. Now, if you recall what Rakesh mentioned to you about the situation prior to 2003 and then prior to 2016, working in silos, where areas used to maintain their data. One of the reasons behind problems that we encountered with CoreNet itself was the uncontrolled manner in which we allowed CoreNet to function. Yes, it's not the problem of CoreNet, but the fact that CoreNet versions implemented in various subsidiaries changed over a period of time. CoreNet in various areas were independent, were running as independent applications. Data had to be finally aggregated. So areas chose to make modifications there. So standardization was completely lost. Aggregation used to become a cause of concern. This requires standardization of data formats, mapping of attributes to be done properly. As far as missing values are concerned, it's a good idea. ERP will definitely be taking care of it. To default values or maintaining it as null if it is mandatorily to be provided, and null has an important relevance in that particular context. And the other important aspect of preparing master data is to eliminate duplicates. Rakesh was giving some figures. Magasa was also telling some figures. Where a substantial reduction in number of records happened over a period of time due to deduplication. There are a number of very good examples which I'll be presenting to you. The active access of data which has happened over, or the impact of data which we have analyzed and gathered over a period of time. What is the kind of deduplication which is required to happen, why deduplication is important, and why the uniqueness of information is so important. The various important master data sets which we are considering during this ERP transition is item master, customer master, vendor master, employee master, chart of accounts, and asset master. Let me just tell you the relevance of data. And item master would be the best example to narrate that. We have spreads. Rakesh mentioned up to 8 lakh records, getting down to 2 lakh and so on. Now, the records that are mentioned in this item master, if WCL item code referring to a particular dumper spare indicates some other item in CCL or some other item in MCL, then the system is going for a toss. You can't work. The item code for a particular spare in WCL should refer to the same item in MCL, should also refer to the same item in CCL or MCL. This is our major challenge, our major task in getting item master ready. This uniqueness of information applies to any other master. For example, customer master. You have the same customer picking off coal out of WCL and out of MCL and out of NCL, operating under various identities. You are not able to fix that he is the same customer. The same situation happens in case of vendors. There have been situations, I shouldn't be getting very much into that aspect, but for the general audience, you would be aware that there are blacklisted customers in a particular subsidiary who find them operating in another subsidiary. Of course, there are certain facilities which allow this to happen, but then when you get into an ERP environment, you're supposed to ensure that this information is flagged out and presented to the user of the tendering authority in time. Same way, employee master. What used to happen? Very interesting situation where an employee gets transferred from one area to another area. His record from the other area to the new area is actually physically transferred in the earlier time. Maybe still it's happening. His old records continue to be existing in the old area, and this new area also has its records. Net result is we have the same employee being represented 2 times, maybe 3 times. There are situations wherein a single employee number is shared by 2 or 3 people. There was a situation where I was during my service off, and it was very, very interesting, where the employee number allotted to the new employee happened to be the employee number of the director person. Something ridiculous. Yes, it happens. Chart of accounts, the various levels of data which has been created here, which All India team has managed to bring it down, and I'll be taking you there. Assets. We need to know where our assets are placed. What is the asset and how this asset can be connected to the item master in case of engineering assets. These are all important masters which will significantly impact the go live. We need to ensure that the go live happens in time, and for ensuring the go live happens, we need to do a lot of work. So in order to do that work, what I've presented here in your screen is the item codification status, which indicates the total number of records which we collected from various subsidiaries, how much of corrections have happened, how much of corrections is remaining, and there is again another column which says how much of corrections is remaining for moving items. Because of the extent of this, or the volume of data, we decided that we will restrict the data to the last 10 years, or consider data of the last 10 years as moving items, and the other data as beyond 10 years as non-moving items. That is data which has not been transacted beyond 10 years. And then further, there is another category of moving items, that is data which has been transacted during the last 10 years, but with quantity and without quantity. So again, that's another segregation which has been done. And what are the new codes which have been created in the process? Now, this segregation is only one way to help you in attacking the data. If you consider the data which has been presented to you for immediate attention, because first phase MCL and WCL and NEC, not necessarily that other subsidiaries should not look at it. The earlier they get ready, because phase 2 is coming, the tender has happened, phase 2 is coming almost just within a phase gap of maybe 3 to 6 months. So other subsidiaries should take a cue, start getting ready. But meanwhile, if you look at MCL and WCL, MCL should be first tackling the 4,428 records where the classification comes under moving and where quantity is existing. Likewise, WCL with 7,429 records indicated. Of course, this data I had taken the help of the CIL ERP team, because I have been talking of timeliness, and obviously I shouldn't be making a presentation with data which is not latest or current. These are figures which have come from the system. So WCL needs to tackle about 7,429 records which are moving with quantity. So it means they are important records. We need to find out where these transactions happen. And I have other slides also which indicate how you can still better filter out and tackle level by level. Because if you handle transactions of a more recent nature, you will be able to get the storing charges or the equipment in charges, being able to tell you that if this record lacked some information like the description or the part number, then they would be in a position to tell you, because it's a transaction which has happened very recently. It will be more difficult to tackle records which fall into the 5-year bracket or which fall into the 5-year, 10-year bracket. If you move next to the next slide, I've basically tried to present, and all those who are dealing with this are very clear about it. There are 3 basic kinds of errors in case of item master. There is reclassification, description correction, and part number correction. What is reclassification? Reclassification is a situation where an item has been indicated as an HEMM item, but as far as the subject matter expert is concerned, as far as the person, whoever is dealing with the record is concerned, he says that, well, this cannot be an HEMM item. It could be a consumable, it could be an E&M item, it could be a washery item. So obviously, this item needs to be reclassified and put into the proper bucket. And if it's a consumable or if it's an E&M item, then that data needs to be tackled by the E&M person. The same could apply in case of E&M, or the same could apply in case of consumables. Description. Now, a lot of concern has been there that why is it that item master corrections are taking so long? Just imagine the kind of descriptions that have gone into the records. You'll be wonderstruck that with such descriptions, how is a subject matter expert or maybe even the shift in charge or store in charge supposed to understand that what was this item which was transacted? What is it? The description has something very vague written. Some descriptions have put in part numbers which are also not correct. Some descriptions have just put in model numbers or something ridiculously incorrect. So these description corrections need to be attempted. Part number. Part number is a number which is given by the OEM. There is no reason why a part number should be changed or altered. And that is exactly what is happening. You find the item with a part number which just doesn't correlate to the description or to the item. Then there are situations where the same part number has multiple descriptions. So you can very well understand what is the nature of correction that needs to be undertaken to ensure that the correct data and reliable data goes. Raja sir mentioned garbage in, garbage out. Obviously, if you push in erroneous data into the ERP, even the best ERP in the world, SAP, it will only throw out garbage. You need these corrections to happen, and you need these corrections to happen before go. I also mentioned to you that I have done a small analysis to help you further understand this data. So I took out the data for WCL and MCL and I further divided it into transactions which happened during the last 1 year, the last 3 years, and the last 5 years. This is again very much retrievable with a system which has been developed by the ERP team, Arun and Ashutosh, Shantan. There are a whole lot of system executives at Core India who have made a wonderful system to help this transition happen, to help correct data, and obviously they have been. This has been done with the supervision of real subject matter experts like Subhajit, E&M Jana and Naveenji. Subhajit has the major share because HEMM data is the larger chunk of this entire data set. But having said that, the entire team has built a system whereby we are able to point out these concerns to the subsidiaries. It is an online system, so subsidiaries at the persons at the unit level or at the area level can help in correcting this issue. Subsidiary headquarters have a task in identifying or letting this data being segregated into area stores and unit stores so that the data gets that the unit store person receives for correction is just limited to his set. So the numbers at the headquarter level might look big, but when it comes down to the unit level, things will be much, much more simple. Item master cleansing challenges, well, I've been almost discussing through most of it. Part numbers being incorrect, customized part numbers can't be linked to any OEM. Length of part numbers are appearing absolutely incorrect. So these part numbers the correct part numbers have to be put. There's no shortcut, there's no solution other than that. Multiple descriptions existing against the same part number. Well, when you see the data, you would be able to understand that which description relates better to the part number, and you will have to go on with that description and fix that rather than continuing with this kind of information which results in creating an inconsistent master record. The incorrect classifications, I already mentioned to you. Lubricant POL being classified as a GMM or a rubber bush, which is an E&M item which is classified as an GMM item. Axle case, which is not able to classify this item. So reclassifications have to be carried. Same situation for E&M. Make and model, yes, this is a very big problem as far as E&M data is concerned. Unlike HEMM, where you have very major OEMs with which for India deals, DDML or Hitachi or DLH or any big OEM. So things are more or less standardized, and then HEMM has come into existence more in the recent times than in the earlier times, because large open cast mines is a more recent phenomenon. Whereas E&M has inherited the old underground mines. There are underground mines are very large in number, and with a lot of old equipment where OEMs are not being able to identify who is the OEM, what is the make and model. So there is a very big problem as far as make and model of E&M items are concerned, and there has to be a solution worked around in consensus with all the subsidiaries to make and model provisions being carried out. Likewise, part number, since the old equipments are depending on a lot of spares which come off from local markets and from other sources, the part number for spare parts of E&M is also a major concern. However, we need to standardize so that if you talk of a E&M part in CCL and E&M part in MCL, they refer to the same. Maybe in the case of a crisis where flooding or underground mine goes under requirement for a particular pump, or particular item which is not available in MCO stores and is an emergency requirement which can be sourced out to a depot transfer, maybe from MCL or WCL. So this information has to be reliable, and you should be able to identify the same item across quality. The other point which has been indicated here in red is the situation where part numbers have been mixed with model numbers and so on. The other aspect is reclassification, and that has been concerned across all classes of data, whether it is a GMM, whether it is NIM, washery, or consumables. Data not belonging to that class has gone into that class. That has to be set right. And description has always been a cause of concern. The descriptions are so vague that many a time you are hardly able to understand what this item is. It needs to be set right. And obviously, for very old data which has been transacted more than 5 years old, it is quite likely that we may not even be able to find a solution because the person who was issued that particular item or the in charge of that particular workshop might have moved out. So we have to take a call, and we have to have a trade-off that to what extent we will go about with these corrections, and if need be, push all this into the warehouse, and subsequently when a requirement crops up, then we issue a proper item code and a description and bring this record back into existence. Consumables, the same way. Consumables are even more difficult to handle because there is no part number. Invariably, it's classified into a major class and a minor class, and information is totally dependent. Your classification is completely dependent on the description. So, Coal India has taken on this task of classifying consumables correctly with the help of Tech Mahindra, who have used certain classification software with a third-party organization, and they are doing good work, and hopefully all the classification issues of consumables will be addressed in due course. The various nature of information, what is there, standardization, minor class, mandatory properties missing, conflicting description, incorrect description, everything has been indicated there. I hope these slides would be also shared with amongst all the participants, and particularly those who are interested in or who are handling this particular issue, to know more about what are these concerns. And obviously the teams who are working with it are pretty aware. This is for the benefit of people who are from finance background or from HR background, who need to understand what other activities are also happening in here. So it is from that point of view that I made this presentation. These are some of the anomaly examples where you can see what is the CFL 26, how it was classified, and now how it is being set right, the source description, how it has been changed, and store record, how it has been maintained, has also been put there, just to show that this is the way data used to be maintained, and this is what the information on the basis of which we have to correct records. The data cleansing activities would also, the way Tech Mahindra would be going about with it would involve selection, exclusion of the data, validation, deduplication, merging, consummation, post-validation, and finally uploading. Now, while making all these discussions, I must point out to you that data is not just master data. We have lakhs and lakhs of transaction data which needs to be uploaded into the system. The master records which we would be collecting through this application screen which I have pointed out here are creating new item master codes or new codes in case of customer, in case of employees, whatever it is. And transactions which are maintained in the subsidiaries would have to essentially get mapped with these new item codes or employee codes or customer codes, whatever it is. And then a cleansing run has to be, or a validation run has to be set there before moving in the cutover data into the system. So your master data is not only relevant in terms of the just getting the data right here in the master level, but it is going to have a huge impact on capturing transactions both for the cutover data and what will go into the system, into the warehouse, for subsequent analysis, because you should be able to relate the old transactions with the new corrected master. Let's take customer master. Here, interestingly, I'm presenting only information of MCL and WCL, but it's important to know that this exercise cannot be limited to MCL and WCL, but has to go across all subsidiaries. I need to tell that in one context. If you look at the data that is going into the ERP, a lot of data or some of the data we can consider as subsidiary specific. For example, the employee data of non-executives there can be a very subsidiary specific data, although non-executives are also transferred across subsidiaries, but that is very rare. So the checking of non-executive data across subsidiaries does not become so important as in the case of item or customer or vendor, because the same customer is and being handled across MCL, WCL, CCL, or name it, or across any of these subsidiaries. So you cannot get a picture of the correct customer master correct status unless you look at the customer data which also comes in from other subsidiaries. So although Sayantan makes a presentation of, gives me this data of MCL total being 180 of 1854 and completed 1854 and WCL being this, I wouldn't entirely agree with him, because the data from other subsidiaries also need to come in here to make sure that the customer, the final customer master that is being generated, also addresses the future requirement of these two. Because in ERP, once you get into the system, you cannot make major changes into the master, particularly in terms of codes and all this. Say that, well, I realize that the CCL data is more correct and more representative about a customer, not MCL data. This cannot work. This has to be taken care and addressed right at this stage. So these are informations which need to be built on across subsidiaries and not confined just to MCL and WCL. Cleansing challenges of customer data, multiple sold to party addresses, registered address not available, no official website, but multiple websites of a customer, PIN code not matching, Then the how do you basically validate the customer? The more we need to depend on certain information. For example, in Item Master, we depend on the part number. Here you have fortunately with you the GSTIN code and the PAN number. Now multiple GSTs numbers exist for the same PAN number. It is obviously possible if it is across states. Customer name does not match with the details in the website. The same GST refers to multiple customers. These are kinds of problems which are being corrected and have to ensure that a particular customer is represented only by one particular item. The same holds true for vendor. Vendors that is also cannot operate, or you cannot depend on a vendor master analyzation just on MCL and WCL and CIL. It has to happen across subsidiaries to ensure that you are looking at the total data set and not just MCL, WCL and CIL. Same kinds of challenges for the vendor, multiple addresses, multiple GSTs, obviously. In certain cases, it would be correct. Vendor name doesn't match with the website. Multiple vendors having the same PAN and GST, impossible. There has to be, this data needs to be corrected. So, these are some of the cases of the data anomalies which have existed. Just to give you a picture, this is something which anybody and all the participants would be able to understand. The first record represents Sanjeevani. The second record also represents Sanjeevani. But the second record doesn't have a PAN or GST. Then you have the case of Dept chemicals with 4 records, and all 4 records speaking of different kinds of information. Some without PAN number, some without GSTIN. So all this can represent only a single Dept chemicals. You cannot have Dept chemicals being represented in 4 different ways. Same situation for vendor. Addresses and information which is recorded, not necessarily tallying, multiple records for the same vendor. So you just see the case of Bharat Power. Bharat Power having 4, 5 records, or maybe probably 6 records of Bharat Power. Addresses are same. In some cases, addresses are different. So essentially, the same vendor is represented with different vendor codes, and probably the organization doesn't even realize that he's handling the same person under different identities. Come down to employees. Very good work done. This is, in case of employees here, we need to understand that we have segregated the requirement into 2 categories. The non-executive data would be completely provided and collected and managed by the ERP team. The executive data is being managed currently through a very good system, and we would need to continue with that system till all the subsidiaries come into the ERP, because executives move from one subsidiary to the other subsidiary to promotion, even without promotion, and the performance management of the executives are also managed through that system. And we have more or less taken a decision that that system would continue to exist without disturbing the ERP, and data from there will be an exchange of data between that system and the ERP, modalities of which are being worked out by Tech Mahindra and how to handle it. So that being said, if you look at the non-executive data which has come in, which has been completed, percentages indicated, but when you look at the approved figures, it's not very healthy. Approval needs to happen because information of an employee which goes into ERP cannot be changed. It is very, very important to understand that ERP is a highly audited system and you would be required to give an explanation or a justification for any change happening in the ERP. And it is not desirable, or particularly for sensitive information relating to the employee, whether it's his grade history, whether it is relating to his basic data in the of the employee. Like, for example, we have presented here the case of incorrect date of birth of employees. It's very, very interesting. You can't expect an employee with a date of birth of 10th July 20 joining a company. So obviously these things need to be corrected. Some very interesting information is also there. Subsequently, you will see how people have thought that they can get away with incorrect data, but the system has been intelligent enough to point out that, well, you can't get away with such information. I'll show you that also. The deemed date and the actual date, this is some absolutely mandatory information as far as any executive or non-executive is concerned, because it has a lot of importance as far as his career growth is concerned. So that if it is null, the data is unacceptable. So missing grade history, we have not made it very, very tough for the HR personnel at the various subsidiaries. We are saying that at least give two grades, the current grade and the previous grade. So that is at least mandatory for the data to get into the system. The other challenges, this is what I told you. It is mandatory now that every employee should be giving his PAN number and Aadhaar number. Now, some smart people, it is visible here, it is from CCL. They decided that PAN numbers, validation PAN number is of certain size and has this characteristic first four. Others have said the first 5 digits have to be alphabet and so on. So they created some fictitious PAN numbers, built zeros in Aadhaar number and thought that the system would accept it. Well, the team at Coal India has been very, very clever enough to put in this in validation checks and point out that you can't get away with such data. The approval mechanism is very important because it relates to the employee. So this has to happen, and I hope the message goes across that users, particularly the HR personnel who are involved with this exercise, do this. Let's look at finance. Chart of accounts. The pre-lit cleansing count is indicated here, and the final count is indicated. So you can see that MCL and BCCL, which had 4,000 odd records, we have finally brought it down to 1866. So it means that this information, which is being finalized, will get adapted across subsidiaries and will make reporting uniform across subsidiaries and make it easier for subsidiaries to correlate the accounts across subsidiaries, across areas, and take a much better understanding of the system. Like I said, ultimately businesses run on the financial information. It is the financial information, it is the CEO will be interested to know what is the spends and how we are able to control our spends. It is only after that that we start getting the return of investment on the ERP. So therefore, this information is of significance. It has been done across subsidiaries. Good job. But we need to work further on to it. What are the various cleansing challenges which the team encountered? Lack of uniqueness and description-related errors. This is a major cause of concern across all data sets that we have got, because we did not have any control on the description which was going into the system. Blank descriptions, same description but different account numbers. Account code related errors. Code is created but is not being used. A large number of miscellaneous codes, different account codes created in different subsidiaries. So it is important here to note that we are dealing with Coal India as a single enterprise. We are no longer talking of in data as it exists in WCL or MCL or CCL or NCL. So that is the reason why I told the customer and vendor team to understand this very important aspect. We have to look at data across subsidiaries. We cannot look at data in a silo of only MCL or WCL. And data correctness, particularly for the master, has to be accomplished by looking at data across subsidiaries. Asset master, very major challenges, mismatch of figures as per submitted documents and final accounts, errors related to dates like capitalization date, use date, depreciation, date not provided by the subsidiary, date was not given in the stipulated format, basic errors, capitalization date, depreciation date, acquisition year, asset card numbers, card number not provided, card number not unique, evaluation group of the assets not provided. For example, if you have to associate an EKG 4.6, which is an asset, with an item spare, if you are not able to indicate this asset in the particular evaluation group, there is no way you can connect it. You have to do it. So therefore, evaluation group of assets is a very, very significant area of work where assets, particularly the engineering assets, which have to be connected with the spare parts, the spares, consumables, and even in a way, the vendors association would come in here because obviously the vendors cater to spares for particular assets. The department code in certain cases is blank. Depreciation has been given wrongly or is blank. So the nature of cleansing that needs to be done is quite significant. We need to do all this, get the masters ready, and subsequently the transactions, particularly the cutover transactions, have to be correlated with these. Unless this is done, we cannot think of go live. The task is mammoth, and teams need to gear up to do some work on war footing. And I hope all this comes in place and we are able to go in for a go live with good data going into the system. It's important to realize here that the acceptance even after go live is a major activity. The data which goes into ERP and the ERP will get accepted by Cool India only when one quarterly account before the annual account and one quarterly account after the annual accounts and the annual accounts become acceptable to Cool India. Obviously, this means that all the data which needs go into the system needs to go in correctly, needs to be reconciled, and needs to give the correct figures. I'll conclude with that and open up for question and answers.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for explaining things again to us painstakingly. Your patience and your insight would go a long way in preparing us for this ERP. Okay, now Pritam, over to you. Could we have the question answers? And if possible, Thomas sir has himself raised some questions which should be answered by our team members.
Right, I'm putting it into the panelists now. So, those who are having queries, someone raise their hands as well. Jana sir, you can unmute your device and you can speak.
Sir, I am really overwhelmed how accurately and precisely you have knowledge.
Sir, you are audible, but your voice is coming a bit steady. But yeah, you can go ahead. We can hear you.
Sir, I am really surprised that you have nicely made the presentation and you are very much updated as we are. Sir, you have rightly said that it's very much necessity to create 100% of the items. But sir, we have given out this report. This report, sir, to keep the clean data.
It's very difficult to hear you.
Hello?
It's very difficult to hear you. Better write down your question. If you can write down on chat, most of you will be able to read it and respond to it.
Okay, so by that time, anyone having any further queries, please share that. There is a question. Good afternoon, sir. Can we get handouts of the ERP system?
Handouts can always be made available. I will share these presentation with Mahindra and our colleagues.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other queries?
I guess you need to tell people that we are on the social media, and moreover, things are available on the FTP server as well.
Yeah, right.
Good afternoon. May I interrupt or may I have put my question?
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
Thomas sir, good afternoon. After a year.
Yeah.
Sir, I was asked by subsidiaries persons regarding the capitalization of warranty and spares of the equipment. Now, there is an open point in ERP also. How to capitalize this warranty spares? Say we are taking equipment with 7 years, 1 year warranty and 7 years maintenance spares. And these spares are codified according to the material code structure going into these stores under revenue budget, and the inventory of these stores are getting increased. Is keeping the material code of these spares material code as per our CIL convention. How can this be capitalized in the accounts?
Okay. Just, I'll answer your question this way. See, the problem of getting data correct and in place is the first priority. Given item we have requested subsidiaries time and again not get into the final reviews of changes.
Others can go mute, sir. It's the sound is very disturbing. If others can go mute, there are some persons who are not on mute. Maybe. Sir, please.
Okay, I'll request everyone to be getting used to how it comes in. Just now, we have taken this conscious decision of us getting data for ERP, and then the aspects, the finer aspects, the aspects which will add value to the information that is going into the ERP and which will help customers, people like you to take decisions. These things would have to be built in. So one route of it is to get in touch with the blueprinting document and team who is working with the MM related module. See how this can be incorporated into the ERP once the basic data comes into ERP. Thereafter, you can get these things done. At this stage, when we are in the midst of correcting data, correcting item codes, it wouldn't be right to consider any deviation from our object. This is what my recommendation is.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ram, sir, if you want to speak, I just unmuting yourself. Please speak. Ram Kumar R. Yeah, please go ahead. Sir, don't mute. Please go ahead. Yes, sir. Yeah, you're audible. Please go ahead.
This is Ram Kumar here. Earlier I was in MCL, now I become ECL. My question again. When I was in MCL, I was dealing with OMMS, and one of the major problems which we were dealing with was getting new first 5-digit codes of HMM items. Right? That was being controlled by Quality Limited. Yeah. There was a case in which where we got a new thing called surface miner. For the surface miner, we asked for the first 5-digit codes, and we waited for about 3-4 months and we couldn't get even the first 5-digit codes, leave alone the qualification. I think this is qualification. Okay. For qualification is concerned. My suggestion is, whenever we go for a new equipment or a new type of item, we should get from the manufacturer himself the list of spare parts and part numbers from the manufacturer itself, and then Quality should qualify the entire thing and put it in the central database so that nobody has to wait for all the part numbers and all the item qualification to be done.
honorable is concerned, it is really a headache because there is no standard set of description writing in the existing system. Thank you, sir.
Right. I'll answer your question. As far as getting the soft copy of all spares associated with any new equipment, I believe we can take the help of the MM department to ensure that they put it or make it mandatory as a part of the contracts or the tender itself, where the supplier, when he is awarded the contract, is required to towards the part number with descriptions in the format in which it is required to be put into the master and subsequently be put into the ERP. And let me tell you that when we were finalizing this idea of bringing a ERP into Coal India, we had a detailed project report which went through the board. In the DPR, the consultants have very rightly indicated the requirement of a master data governance cell, because data is so critical and so important for the functioning of ERP that these issues and issues like what you have pointed out need to be brought within the fold of a master data governance cell who takes prompt action, and you don't have to wait for an item code for such a long time. Item code, now we have a software, an application which is supposed to be generating the item code right there and there. So this is centralized so that every subsidiary shares the same item code. I hope these requirements are addressed in due course, because ERP, one director, when I had spoken to him about ERP, he said a very nice thing. He said, Coal India, all the time keep working hard. I hope with the coming of ERP, we work smart. We are required to work smart, not work hard. So if we need to work hard and not work hard, then obviously we need to ensure that actions like this are taken time.
Thank you. Very well said. Okay, one more thing coming here is, as per Thomas sir, it is better to have all subsidiary data with 100% correctness only than go live. It is coming from CIL. Then from WCL, in finance, no SME is exclusively earmarked for ERP. When will that happen? Okay, this is not the forum, sir. You can put it separately. Talk about data.
Yes. Data needs. I did mention to you that acceptance of the ERP is based on one quarterly account, one annual account and two quarterly accounts, one preceding and one succeeding. Obviously, if this has to happen, data needs to go into the system correctly. And we must, the kind of task that is laid up before us, there would be concerns. We have to have a trade-off. Maybe certain compromises are there, but then all said and done, you need to put correct data into the system.
Right, sir. From CMPDI, Ashimji is asking, can we get the presentation shown session? Yes, we will share that. Or you can also get it over the YouTube channel. It will be already live, so it will be given there as well. Okay, many other thing. Going to incorporate forensic audit in near future. It will help in pointing out many differences in our system and help a strong ERP system. So forensic audit is something Shumit is asking for.
Yeah. These are all very standard features which come with an ERP. In ERP, nobody can get away by putting in some data and later on claiming that this data was not done with me. Or if he makes a change, he can't say that this change was not done with me. Because every record and every piece of information that goes into the ERP is through valid logins, and every user who is putting in the information will be responsible for the information. And this will be, I don't know how many organizations depend completely on ERP data for audit, but virtually that will be the common way in which we do it. So there's no way in which we can manipulate data in that.
All right, sir. Thank you. Animesh is telling like the fields are changing continuously. Are we updating or even every now and then? So I'm not sure which particular field he is talking about. It would be better if you can share more specific. Okay, so by the time things are coming, I will request RP Singh to go ahead with the thanking note. We are looking into the comment section. If anything is coming, then we'll just to make it available. RP Singh, sir, there?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. First, Thomas sir, and all other attendees,
Doing a great job.
including Bhanja sir and Rakesh sir. After a long time, we are hearing you. We can say formally, informally, we are talking to each other many a times.
Yeah.
But formally, be it through virtual town hall. But we are listening to you. It is really a very exhaustive and elaborative discussion, I should say, related to data. And what Thomas Saab is known, it is not just data, what data is, how it is to be handled. It is very meticulously planned and very meticulously explained also. So he shared his experience regarding working. Data is not a new thing for persons working in systems. At least we, Rakesh, Bhanja sir or Thomas sir, we are playing with data and code. It's not a new thing. How to handle data. Other things. Ramakrishna, you are not interested. Please. Other than me, take care of that.
Yes, sir.
Well, myself also listening so that you can see face to face. So anyway, still few keep yourself. It is. So it's not easy to do yourself. You are disturbing others. So there is no question of saying anything after hearing Thomas sir, Rakesh sir and Bhanja. They have spent years on years of playing with data and codes. So that's not a new thing. Others attendees who are listening to Thomas sir and these two other panelists, and we were updated. We are getting updated by the different things. How data we have to duplicate that, and the things how to make it ready for SAP data SAP loading. So that's anyway it's exhaustive. Need not to go on detail for that. How good it is obviously a very appealing to all of us to know what is what. So I just want to share something how things are moving in ERP. Anyway, data, and first to go with data. Data, we have started, Thomas are knowing all these things. We started with having data covering all master data, critical or non-critical, pan India or specific to subsidiary. It was around 10 lakhs. And now we have reduced the data by using deduplication and other mechanisms to 2.5 lakhs only. That's how our team sitting at Coal India, team working on data, be it technical or functional, worked on that. I am seeing one of the few flashes that I think from WCL, the data is being cleaned with the understanding of people sitting and preparing data at area level. So it must be cleaned from subsidiary and headquarters, or there must be a clarity how to cleanse the data. So I think this discussion will be a very fruitful one, and it's a continuous process. We have just framed how to cleanse the data, prepared few sort of portals based on that. You will allocate item code, we cleanse all these things. Few things I must say, just by reaching the numbers of data from 10 lakhs to 2.5 lakhs. Apart from deduplication, we did the creating a batch sort of thing. We have not introduced that. That is also one of the, just to explain in a very simpler way, a part which is used in different machines of different equipment. Earlier it was having related was, please mute yourself. Please maintain this discipline. It's not a big thing. Just mute your speaker. We earlier we had created just item code linked with equipment. Same. Just you think of a oil seal. If it is used in n number of equipment, we have n numbers of item code for that oil seal. And same way it is maintained in stores also physically. We have now introduced that using the batch way of going to things. Just introduced one item code for that batch number with a part number, so that wherever it can be used, but it is having only single item code. That is one of the way we have reduced that number from 10 lakhs to 5 lakhs. And you people are might be knowing that with Techem Edge SI, we have with them and working with us is a pile of data cleansing company, data quality governance company. We can use that. At other places, you can say HEMM and other places is not so effective. But in case of consumables, they did a very, very good job. Just by creating enrichment of the description of consumables, by creating a very scientific way of, which is universally accepted way, to create the description of consumables. As because in consumables there is no concept part number, so you cannot create do the deduplication job on consumables. So just creating the description of that of consumables in a scientific way, which is more or less 40 characters you have to play on that, which is universally acceptable. If you prepare that way you can reduce the numbers of consumables. And you will be astonished to know that earlier the number was 80,000, now reduced to around 17,000. out of which 32,000 or 33,000 is the figure, which is still not, we are able to define that whether it's a correct description or wrong description, or how to make them a scientific description of those items. So we are very soon sending those 33,000 data, dividing them to different subsidiary and again in different areas and units. That way to please the data to make a meaningful specification of that, so that we can create a scientific description of it. So that otherwise 80,000 is model and more or less that is our team confidence is based on that 17,000 data. More or less 90% of the consumables requirement or item code can be covered. That is what our confidence is. Obviously, working with our counterpart at subsidiary level also. But still, this is not a job which can be done by a tool or just by taking help of systems people, using sorting the things, duplicate the thing based on part number or enrichment of the description or creating batch. Still, you have some human intervention, manual intervention, so that you have to judge them. Just to add on here, we have just received, we got this information from my data team that from NCL, where we expect the data quality is very good, but somehow we received a item which is used in drag line having price level of more in crores, and we received same spares from NCL having rate with thousands. So it cannot be checked by any system, it cannot be checked by any tool. It can only be checked or vetted by the people, the person working on that. And it is pointed out somehow that how it happened. You have to analyze it. Unless until you are not involved in that, unless until you are not owning the data, what Bhanja Sahab or all panelists are saying, you have to, things are there, rules are there, you have to maintain that, you have to be disciplined. These things are very common. But still you have to involve on those data, you have to own that data, you have to analyze the data, keep based on rate also, which cannot be mitigated by any tool or any system. You analyze on that. And somehow it has been come to my notice, my team and then me, that it is as because IBS is not working in that area from where the data has come, so that trigger on that item code, as because there is no system there, instead of that spare of what has been prepared, has been procured by that item. That is why that difference. So these sort of thing, I'm just giving you an example of that. So these sort of thing can only be mitigated and only be rectified by taking human intervention, and if you divide the whole data, right now we have 2.5 lakhs data, if you again filter those data in different layers, subsidiary, then area, then unit, it will hardly be in hundreds, in thousands. So that way you have to again cleanse and making qualification on those data, so that it can be how you can make quality on that, on the digital, be it description, be it part number, be it date and all. So that is what my request to all attendees working on or playing with data. So how good your system is, you might be knowing we are progressing in a very, very smooth way. Things are moving as per our plan. But data is a very critical factor. So your output will totally depend on data. So how good your data, and no system, no rule can make your data so qualitative if you are not so involved on that. So that is my request to please filter your data as per your domain, and once again go again and again to check whether is there any discrepancy on that or not. So that will help you to really get the right thing, right analysis from the data on which you are playing or working. That is what regarding data. Just to have things other than data, so that we are listening and getting things on data only. We have 4 pillars. We have to on which the fate of go live or implementation of ERP in Coal India depends. The first one is the best way of mapping of your business blueprint, which is Coal India the same one, global business blueprint. How good we are mapping each thing in the system SAP by configuring which we are progressing. 3 is already been covered. Now we are in the phase of last sprint 4, or second week or third week we will go for sprint 4. So that's one part. And the second pillar is data. Anyway, we heard many things about data, how to go for that data. Third one is infrastructure. How good your data is, how good your system is. Still, you have to have our infrastructure at server level, you can say, or data center level, and at data punching level. So, and a connectivity between that data generating file to the server level, that is data center. So, we are working on day and night also at data center level. Things are progressing as per our revised timeline, you can say. Anyway, we are going to go live by September, but somehow because of few things not in our control, we are not able to establish our data center on time. But now it's a published date. By 14th December is the go live date for first phase, and second phase is also not far away. We are coming up with by another 6 months, you can say, or 7 months. We are going for go live on second phase also. So I can give you a GMERP that things are moving in a very proper way and coming time, we can say, as per revised plan, we are moving up with that and the things will, in fact, the problem will be solved. Subsidiary job is to create connectivity and PCs at their data urgency. I think that is what my confidence is. PCs are already at a good number, and we have to locate the PCs at the appropriate place. And finally, the manpower. You can say I could be able to as per the requirement and as per the plan, manpower required for real dedicated manpower, you can say. I'm able to convince my management to create a workforce whose priority job is to work for ERP and other jobs. That somehow I'm able to convince my management. I think that is why the things are moving so fast. Still, that is not the way things will move. You can go on doing this thing for a few months or few years, 1 or 2 years, but it will not be results. That part is still lagging with complexity, and we will certainly go for that. But that much confidence I can give you when ERP will be go live or start working. Whoever working in other and their job in different way, there is no way out than to work on ERP. So things will obviously, and those person will get stuck in a there's no way out. It's very interesting to hear Thomas after a long time. That too, as he known for so meticulously explained all the things. It's always very pleasing to hear Thomas with so many things.
The record with the item itself. So these kinds of decisions need to be taken to resolve this. The other question was from Mr. Bhatti, who likes to know how involved or what kind of a role he would play for being at the unit level or at the area level. I'd say he's the most important person in the whole tree, because data would be originating from him, and as and when ERP starts getting implemented,
Or even the pre-implementation stage like this, where he can contribute very greatly towards refining the master data and play a very significant role in getting ERP implemented successfully. So that's some of the questions. I don't know if there are more. I already spoke about the audit part of it. There is no issue relating to this.
So, yeah, I guess we're done with the questions.
Peter, just a second.
Peter, I'll just take a minute. I'd like to thank RKP Singh Saab, Subhajit, you, Peter, and the entire team and all the participants for listening to me. It was great interacting with you. It's really nice. I wish all the ERP team and the project a success. I've always been happy to share your success and feel really nice when you're charged up and doing so well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Peter, just a second. Peter, 1 second. One is, sir, Rakesh, sir, this matter is coming up time and again that no finance executive is available exclusively for ERP at WCL.
Two finance executives have been specifically chosen as SME. Their attendance has been low. They have to engage themselves more often.
Yes, sir. So that is in your court, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Just one thing. Sorry that I'm having to do this after my GM ERP has given his vote of thanks. There was a question regarding allocation of 5-digit codes. I don't know when this happened that it took 4 or 5 months for us to allocate a code. If it has happened after this digital platform came up, I don't know, something would have been wrong with this fix provided. But right now the policy is you send a mail for adding a 5-digit code and with proper documents, and the code is allocated maybe same day or in a day. The second question was regarding creating item codes for all act numbers available in the parts catalog. that is not required. That will unnecessarily bog down the system, and there will be, instead of 2 lakh codes for all equipment, we'll have 2 lakh for a single equipment. So that is what I wanted to add. Now, Preetham, over to you.
Okay, thank you, sir. A quick thing before we end the session. So, as I understand, Thomas sir will love to see all of us. So, I will stop presenting my screen and will request everyone to please share your video, because that is what I feel it's a good gesture where we can just make him feel like we are all there down the line. So that's what I want to say. So everyone will request to please share your video. Just put on your video. I will request the team from TechM as well. To those who are there into the call, please take a pause and share your video, please. Okay, I can see Pratik over there. Thank you.
You have taken up most of the screen now. How can others come in?
No, sir. There is an option. There is an option on the right hand side by which you can just Did you get it?
Yes.
I hope someone is taking the screenshots as well, because we are planning to post it over social media. So yes, Thomas, really appreciate it, because I know you are sitting there from 10:30. Huge effort from your side. So thank you for that.
Preetham, survey.
Yeah, I will quickly go back. I will screen again. So, a quick thing, I will request everyone to go on mute, please. So this is the change assessment survey. We received a good amount of response from WCL. So around 55% responses we have received. And on the right, you can see the density of users at present in all the subsidiaries. So looking around that, ACCL has done also a good job with respect to being the second subsidiary, but MCL has taken note, because we need to have more responses from you, because you are being the first phase employee. The subsidiaries, we need more responses from there. So I already shared Srinivas sir and Panjay sir. Also please take a note. If we can quickly have a connect, that will be great. So that's what I want to say. If you have doubts how to get into this particular survey, I already shared the link, and also in Coal India website you will find this ERP Change Readiness Survey 1. You can go and click on that. I guess we are going to close this survey pretty short, because we need to start analyzing processes. So we already extended almost more than 15 days now. So we request everyone to please take this thing forward. Thank you.
So now we can call it a day today. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, sir, Thomas sir, Manju sir, Rakesh sir, and everyone else. See you in a week or a fortnight. Yes, that is true. That is true. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.
Take care. Bye bye. And the entire thing will be available YouTube channel. You can take a look. Thank you. Closing the session now.